People buy from people. That's what it's always been, what it always will be. If you want to grow very quickly, you need to show your face and you need to be the one that represents your brand, because there's nobody that knows it as deeply as you, that's as passionate as you, and that can sell it as well as you. It will never be someone who can compare, even if you hire a fantastic salesperson.
What's up, everyone? I am so excited for this episode. We're going to hear all about how to get your product ready for the holidays. This is a huge opportunity for anyone that has a product, so you're not going to want to miss this one. Today, we have the one and only Jacqueline and Minna. They are product experts. They're a host of the leading podcast for products called the Product Boss Podcast. You might have heard of them. I definitely have. And they've helped over 50,000 product bosses around the world scale their business. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us,
We're
Gloria.
so excited we're here. Thank you.
So you are kind of the leading experts in this. You've helped 50,000 different product bosses around the world. That is incredible. Can you talk a little bit about why it's so important to focus about getting ready for the holidays and what that timeline looks like?
Great question. So I'm Jacqueline. By the way, if you hear both of our voices, this is Jacqueline's voice. And the importance about getting ready for the holiday season is, if we've heard the stat, and you may have heard it too, is that all the combined revenue between Q1, Q2, and Q3 can get doubled in Q4 for a product-based business, meaning that's the time that consumers are spending, they're buying, and this is the busiest time of year for product-based businesses, typically. Now, listen, if you sell pool supplies or, Mina's company, which is Little Labels, she's really known for like back to school time and camp time. Maybe the holiday season is not your busiest season, but typically it is. It's gift giving. People are buying, they're decorating their homes, they're spending there. And so it's really important to get prepared, and to get prepared early, because we don't want you to be reactive in your busy time. We want you to be able to, we like to say, like, sip your pumpkin spice latte, eat your apple pie, enjoy the holiday season, and be making a ton of money in terms of sales. And you can't, and if you're reactive in that time, it's going to, it's not going to be as great as if you start to plan early and you're super prepared for the holiday season.
Mm-hmm. And you're proactive. So
in terms of timeline, what does that look like?
Oh, sorry about that. Well, I mean, we are already holiday getting ready right now towards, third quarter going into fourth quarter. So it's really about getting prepared. The big guys, the big box retailers, they start getting ready June, July, really, really early. To be honest, really early. Even now, more so, it's getting more and more even earlier than that. But as small businesses, we should really take into account that there's lots of things, like we have to order goods, we have to set up our shipping, we have to hire people, perhaps we have to with Jacqueline and I help people. We, like Gloria said, we help over 50,000 students, and they're all small businesses. So the thing about the small business is that you really are wearing a lot of hats oftentimes. So if you can get ahead and have a plan and focus on the things that are making you money, and focus on a particular product or the lineup that you have, it helps you to stay profitable and sustainable through a really, really busy time. And so our holiday season is where we have the most fun, to be honest, where we really jump into our community. We're boots on the ground with them a lot of times. How can we support you? How can you get ahead? How can you get your ducks in a row and be successful and set up the goals and meet them? And that's what really, really help in our courses and our education around this time.
I love that so much. Now, in terms of press and getting ready, it's all about being strategic, right? Because obviously you might have a product line that's diverse. You might have many different products. So I always say pick the one that is reflective of your point of view, of what you want to share. Do you have any tips on how to strategize if, let's say, I have multiple products? How do I know how to get my ducks in a row?
Oh, so good. We really lean into bestseller. So if you know us, we talk about what your bestseller is. We like to talk about going deep and not wide. So many times, I know our product-based businesses out there, but also service-based. If you're listening, we think if we make more things, we will capture more customers, right? Yes, I can make, all these different products. Like I can make candles and room infusers and sprays and body butters and bath bombs and all the things, or you really focus on your bestseller. So when we're thinking about press, PR, pitching yourself, we talk about this when they're selling and trying to get on other sales channels and sales platforms, trying to get into retailers. You lead with your bestsellers. You lead with the tried and true because you know that people want it. You know they buy it. You have testimonials on it. You most likely have the best margins on that product. And you know you can sell it all day, every day. It's what you're known for, and we want you to become known for it. I like to bring up Juicy Couture tracksuits. They are sort of making a comeback. And Gloria, you're from Southern California, which is where I'm from. So you know, right? And so Juicy Couture tracksuits. Now listen, back in the day in 2000, no, it was 1997. I went to a really trendy store in LA and I bought a pair of Juicy Couture denim. Okay, in 97. This is pre tracksuit. Then 98, 99, they came out with their tracksuits. If you remember, it's the velour, tracksuits that everybody wore. And that's what put them on the map. That's what blew them up. And do you think that the two women that founded that company eventually 10 years later were like, I don't want to see another tracksuit in my life? I'm sure that they did feel that way. But instead, they made variations. They made short versions. They made puff sleeve versions. They made capris. They made different colorways. They kept leaning into what their bestseller was. It put them on the map, which eventually led to them selling off their company for hundreds of millions of dollars, right? It's what they're known for. When it expanded into handbags and jewelry and all, and perfumes and makeup was when it was actually bought out by a bigger company. So I think as you're pitching yourself and you're trying to lean into press and PR, how can you make your best sellers relevant to the season that we're in and double down on that because you know it sells and then come up with your variations or your different pitches around it?
It's really about connecting the dots. That's something we actually have to push our students in a lot of. It's about connecting with your customer and for them making the leap. It's what how you talk about PR too, Gloria, of, why does it matter? Why does it matter and why do they need to buy right now? For you, it's why do I need to write a story about you or why are you relevant, right? It's because you have to be the one that says, here is why you need to buy it right now. Here is, the want, the need, the desire, the hook, or whatever it is, connecting the dots for your customer and connecting the dots for why you would be featured in a gift guide or in a PR publication, of making that bridge, as you have mentioned many times.
Yeah, I really love it. It's about not the product, but what is the season, the emotions, the trends, and what does that say about our deeper psyche, right? So, for example, I wrote a pitch for someone who makes tie dye sweatshirts, and it really was around how the pandemic has made us want to yearn for simpler times, right? Whether it's childhood. So, what is that bigger picture? Can you tell me a little bit more about, because obviously product based businesses, you might think, well, it's all about leading with the product, leading with why it's great. What have you found to be the best ways to message and storytell around a product?
I think that making it relevant to the customer, but in a very psychological way. We talk about logical versus psychological. So, logical is your product features. It is, the ounce of the candle, it's the weight of it, the amber jar, the scent, the smell. But really, a consumer, when they're buying, they're actually buying for the illogical reasons, the psychological reasons, right? There was even a study a long time ago that there's a part of your brain that helps you make decisions. And that even comes to purchasing, right? The decisions you make on what you buy. And the people that couldn't make the decisions in this part of the brain were the ones that controlled emotions, like elicited emotions, right? And so thinking about how much of your decision making is based off of emotions and psychological reasons versus logical reasons. They don't care about the ounces. They don't even care about the burn time. They care about the memory that they have when that candle is burning in their house, or they care about what it makes them feel when they see that jar and, it is a luxe brand that they want to see in this beautiful house of theirs, that when people walk through it, they're like, ooh, that person has a very fancy candle. It's kind of why like hotels have certain smells when you walk in, because psychologically and we our bodies desire certain things that we can't control, and we make decisions based on them far more than if we see a product and we're looking at the logical features. So really thinking about the story of that. What's the story behind why they would buy the candle? Why would they want it? Why would they need it? Why would they desire it? Versus coming up with the features and you need it because it has this many hours of burn time. They really are looking for the story that's around why they internally want that candle in their house, what it reminds them of, what it portrays to them, what they aspire to be a lot of times.
And I can add a story. So we had a student of ours, and she came up with a gold bangles, so anniversary bangles, solid gold. It was this idea that her grandfather gave a bangle to her grandmother every year that they were married as an anniversary present. And so when she conceived this company, she taught herself how to be a jeweler. I think she might have gotten started on Etsy. She started making these bangles, but as many product-based business owners do, as I said, from bestseller, they start to get distracted. They're like, oh, I'm a jewelry company. I need to make the bangles, but I'm also going to make earrings and necklaces and rings and toe rings and anklets and all the things, right? And so when we started working with her, she had a successful business. It was really high in revenue, also because we were selling solid gold jewelry, so already a higher price point. But what we were able to whittle down for her was the story. The story was why she conceived it, why she started it was this anniversary bangle given to her grandma, and she wanted to recreate that yearly thing that like a husband might do or a spouse might do
Like
to
a
get someone a gift. I
tradition.
mean, how many times tradition, that's the word. How many times, it comes to your next anniversary and your spouse is like, I don't know what to get you. It said cotton. I'm going to buy you something with cotton. And you're like, oh, you got me cotton sheets. That's not very romantic. So, so the idea here is that but she was getting distracted. And so we helped her focus back in on the story, going back to the why, really leaning into her bestseller, which were the bangles, and to come out with variations on the bangles because there's only so many of the basic bangles. And people, as they start to add, maybe they want to add diamonds, birthstones when they have children, notches. I'm wearing them right now, just different things that were tradition, and creating that tradition and then expanding their mind that this tradition doesn't have to be between like spouses, but it can be for other types of anniversaries, traditions, that kind of thing. So Mina and I actually, as we bought for our third year in business. And when we hit 1 million downloads, that was sort of like the different bangles we bought ourselves. And it was to remember these occurrences that happened. So if you can see, and then someone tried to knock her off. And there was a war of worlds over on Instagram between the fans of hers and then the fans of this other person, and being like, this is why, and they could have hammered it out on the product. Our student, it's solid gold all the way through. The competitor, it was not solid gold. They were hollow, right? We could have said gold is gold and this is the price point and these are the looks, but instead it was the story and the values built around it. And the competitor could not compete with the core story of grandpa giving to grandma, tradition being carried through, the other tradition she started creating with her community. And so it didn't matter. She still, quote unquote, won in that sort of thing because the story was there, right? And it was more than just the product.
Oh, that is so powerful. I love that so much. I also think that, with the world we live in, there's so much uncertainty. There's so much fakeness that people can suss out really your why, and people want to buy because I don't care if it's a paper clip or if it's a gold jewelry. It's what is the person behind, why did they make that? So I think a lot of times when I think of products, we don't think about the founder. I think a lot of people think they can hide behind their products and not be a on camera, on microphone person. Do you think it's still possible, or do you think the face, like, you need to have a face to the product?
It's possible, it just takes longer and it's a different type of business. People buy from people. That's what it's always been, what it always will be. If you want to grow very quickly, you need to show your face and you need to be the one that represents your brand because there's nobody that knows it as deeply as you, that's as passionate as you and that can sell it as well as you. It will never be someone who can compare even if you hire a fantastic salesperson. The other part of that though is that if you don't want to be the part of that human behind your brand, you actually need to humanize your brand. It takes far longer and it's harder connection. People can like you said, they can know if somebody's being authentic. They can see their mannerisms. They understand like the connection between the two versus taking the time to humanize your brand, and they can determine whether or not they like it or not, you know? And so I think that it can be, it's just not as powerful. It's not as powerful as a bond, and it's not as quick either. So if you do want to grow your business, the quickest, easiest way to do, not easy, the quickest way to do that is to show your face, and you are the one that boots to the ground, represents your brand. And honestly, clarity comes from it. So a lot of times people are like, but I want it to be a certain logo, or I want it to be a certain message. But your message and your logo and the feel of your business as it grows, it will evolve. And as you grow and mature as a business, it actually will become more solidified. You'll have more clarity in your voice, in the customer you attract, because even and then what values you have too. So as you start to grow, you start to see, oh, this is actually a really important value that I have internally and externally. So the people who I hire, as well as the people that I serve in the world, you know? So I think that you can eventually, but I would highly recommend putting a face to the brand, because as a small business, it might have been you might be able to do it, and that's how bigger businesses do it. But as a small business that needs to stand out to sustain, you probably do have to show your face now more than ever, because customers are just more savvy. They're just more savvy. They have different reasons to spend. A lot of times it has to do with the founder, has to do with the values that are is represented a lot, and what they see of themselves or in the world that they hold value to is represented in that owner or in the product and the brand. So I think that, you know, as a small business, it's a way for you to stand out of showing your face and being the representative for your brand.
And if I could add to that, now, if we think about major brands that have come up and grown, and I've just read recent articles on Dagny Dover and Figs Fig Scrubs, okay? And both are their co-founders are two women, both companies. I didn't know this. So I became a fan of Dagny Dover, but I didn't know about the founders. It's actually three, I think three women for Dagny Dover. For Figs, I actually also didn't know that it was two co-owners, two women. Well, when I read their stories, so much of it started with them as the front facing. Now, it didn't mean that they were showing up on Instagram and selling live and doing that sort of thing, but the connections that they were making. So, Figs, for example, would drive to Cedar Sinai in Los Angeles and sell basically scrubs out of their trunks of their car during shift changes to medical professionals, right? Medical workers. They were the face. So, product based business owners, what they don't realize, and a lot of you out there do in person shows, whether you do trade shows, markets,
Craft
art fairs,
fairs,
that kind
farmers
of thing,
markets.
craft fairs.
Mhm.
You are the face of your brand when you're standing in that booth. You are the one that's selling it really well. Now, when it comes to social, are we telling you that you need to be the next like QVC type seller? Not necessarily, but that's why I think we saw such a huge move towards content creators and influencers, and how those quote unquote content creators and influencers sell for brands now is because that is the humanization. They have a no like trust factor. It shows people using it in use. There's like a testimonial there. And so they're like, oh, a real life human is using this. And I trust this real life human and I can do it too. So I think the important thing is that you realize we just go back to the idea of people buy from people. There should be some sort of personality to it. I think about Glacier. Glacier, I don't know the founders, but Glacier, I remember, had really great marketing promotions with like different women and men and people's faces, and you felt connected to the face of the brand,
Different
and that made you trust
ages.
it. So think about
Mhm.
babies. Babies recognize faces and they see faces first, like they see the outlines of faces. Humans will always be attracted to human faces. And so the idea there is how do you figure out how to integrate this into your business? Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whether you're outspoken and want to be on camera or not, you're going to have to figure out a way to personalize the brand.
I mean, when you think about it, Gloria, you have no idea how many soap brands we work with, how many candle brands, how many jewelry brands. I mean, we're talking a lot, okay? Just think 50,000 students and how many of those are candle brands. It's a lot. That's why we use it as an example, because you can wrap your mind around it really, really easily. But we always say there's room at the top for all of us, because there is no person that will do it exactly the way that you do it. There is no person that has the exact same story as you. So if you want to stand out and if you want to grow, it's going to take you leaning into how you're different than the competition. And it's not even competition, it's just other people in the market. Why your candle versus somebody else's candle? Well, it has to do with you and how you present it to the world.
Yeah, I think that's so good. It's like your why. Now, obviously, your words are music to my ears because I'm all about doing the high ROI activities, mastering your pitch, right? Getting control of your narrative. So, have you seen, like, I know obviously you have a lot of students who have successfully done PR really well. That's obviously helped them grow their business. Can you give me a couple of examples of how you've been able to apply the PR methods, or how your students have been able to make PR work for them around the holidays and also get ROI for the rest of the year?
Yeah, great question. I think we saw a lot of this during the pandemic because press was, they cared about the small business back then. So they were really wanting to pitch it and they wanted those stories. They wanted those like hero stories, right? Mom of four homeschooling, women were laid off of jobs at that point. I mean, still, but at that point, a lot. And it was sort of like how they transitioned, how they supported their family, what their income was. So we had, one of our students who made for mamas is the mug company. It's Mindy. And she ended up, I don't know if it was a Today Show or Good Morning America. She always corrects us, but she ended up being on there. She ended up generating sales and she ended up getting that SEO from it as well. Right. So that was long form content. It lived longer. It also gave her credibility. So she has some really big potential collaborations right now with some really big companies where they want to order 20,000 units of certain products. And she had the backup that I was on this show. I have proof that people, like what I have, and there's a story to it. We're buying more than just a mug. It's not like we're rolling up to TJ Maxx or Home Goods and getting a mug off the shelf because it says something cute, but there's more to this, right? It's made for mamas by a mama. I'll tell you, even for Mina and I, as we've, so many times we get really focused on we can talk about product-based businesses and we can pitch a product-based business. That's what we're known for as experts and on how to grow a business, how to market your business, how to do things organically. But what we realized as we started to find the spin was, how two women can function as partners and mothers of two young children, right? There's not a lot of stories about women in partnership. I'm a Real Housewives lover. I'm not going to lie, but all it does is pitch women fighting each other, right? They're friends, but they hate each other. And we're a good example of showing two women in a healthy relationship working through business and being supportive of each other, no matter what. I
Mhm.
think there's also, the integrity component. We've also talked about, Mina and I separately have talked about different parts about our backgrounds and cultures and how that is being entrepreneurs in this world. So I think the idea here is like, it's what you teach is how do you stay relevant in the moment? And yes, we're known for something. You talk about it as the top layer of the onion. Yes, we are the product-based business experts. We have a top podcast, but that can only go so far in interest. And how do we keep making ourselves relevant in the moment? And what do we know that we can contribute for?
And it's basically, when you think about the top layer of the onion, think of that onion as a person. So the top layer is like you meeting someone, you barely know them. They're your acquaintance. Maybe you get to know like the facts. She's in Iowa. She's Asian American. She comes
We're
from,
talking about Mina here.
parents of refugees. Yeah. So I'm obviously describing myself. Those are just like, demographics, let's just say. And then if you get to the core of the onion, that is really what people want. That's what they connect to. That's what they bond to. So if I tell the story about raising two little girls or jumping generational wealth or my values, like the deep down onion of me, my onion heart, then that is really what they connect with and what the audiences want when they are reading something, but also what sticks with them. So we'll tell our stories and we'll be in their earbuds, and people will tell us where they are when they hear our voices, right? We connect with them in a much, in a way where it's like, ooh, I remember you telling this story. I remember you talking about your fear of kidnapping. That's one of my funny things that, it's like the bottom layer of the onion for me. So my fears, right? So when you share that and you share about your fears or the deep down side, it sticks with people. Those are the stories that stick, even in a marketing sense, right? So when they're thinking, oh, this is when they're out in the wild, they can refer back to, oh, I remember Jacqueline likes this, or I remember Minna likes this, or I remember this. And it's the story that sells, and not the top layer of things. It's not the, oh, she's an Iowa sort of layer. It's much more than that sticks with people, even in the long term of them remembering your business and going to buy a gift or something. They pop into, you pop into their brain at that time.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've given us such great gems that, the successful product founders, they understand the story understand their story and how to connect through story, not just their product. You've told us to lean in on your bestsellers, don't have shiny object syndrome, do more of what's working. Before we sign off, do you have any other tips from overseeing 50,000 product owners? What are the kind of the tips or things that are working, really working to move the needle right now?
I think, and especially with the idea of a down economy and all that, and this is something that we support inside of our signature course and program, which is multi-stream machine, is diversification. So at a time right now when things feel uneasy and scary, whether you have a full-time, job and your product-based business or your service business is your side hustle, or you've been selling full on your products and you're doing great on Etsy, or you're doing great selling wholesale or something like that, we want you to diversify in a time like this. We do not want all our eggs in one basket. So it goes with product, but it also goes with income and revenue. So we want you to have diversified ways of having more income. So is your product business a way to have diversification of income in case something stable gets knocked out from under you? The second part is diversifying the sales channels and platforms, diversifying the way you market and create visibility for your business, which PR is a perfect example, right? We've talked about social media and all of a sudden the algorithm doesn't work anymore and you feel like you're stuck, or you were selling on Etsy, but Etsy's made a decision that, they no longer want you to rank high or come up for these searchability keywords, and now you're stuck. So I think something that we teach, we're really leaning into it this holiday season, is diversification, having a backup plan to your income and a backup plan to your revenue streams. And that would be through multiple sales channels and also multiple ways of marketing, visibility, and getting new eyes to your business. So I think in combination with what you teach and what we teach, we really, really focus on organic growth, non-paid opportunities, and also ways to grow on more platforms to reach new eyes. So different sales channels like selling wholesale, direct to consumer, through Amazon, if that's right for you, just different ways in selling. And then that's the diversification. So no matter how hard the world feels or gets, you know that you've got eggs in different baskets. And if something gets knocked over, you have something to
Not
carry you through.
diversification of product, though. So I want to make sure everybody understands diversification. So really listen to what Jacqueline is saying about diversification. It's sales channels and not more product. It's not, because people,
Yeah.
when they hear diversification, they will automatically go to more products, diversifying my product lineup. But we teach it differently. It's taking your bestsellers, putting it onto more sales channels, and diversifying where you get your revenue from. So I just want to make that sure that was clear, because it was lots of diversification up in there.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's where PR comes in. And especially with the holidays, I mean, this is your chance to test and try new things, right?
Yeah. So we have something I know, just, for your audience, if you are a product-based business and you want to get ready for the holiday season, we are running a series of free workshops, totally free. It's the Product Boss's Guide to Getting Holiday Ready. And this is where we are going to help you focus on time, because we talked about like lack of time when it gets to the holiday season. Scaling. So how do you scale your business without becoming the bottleneck of your business? Like, how do you imagine this growth? And then also focus. So what do we focus on to grow it? And I think all of those will really help as they're leaning into growing their product business, also working on press and PR and really kind of trying to get out there. Because if you get the press, if you get the good press, our hopes are that you blow up. Our hopes are that you get more sales. But if you're not prepared for that, how do you have that return on the investment if you can't go anywhere with it? I worked for a celebrity once and we were on the Tyra Banks show and we had no production made, and we had, I don't even think our website was like fully up. We weren't selling e-commerce at that point, and we were getting phone calls to the office. How do I get that dress? How do I get that dress? We had zero way to sell anything to them but we had the press opportunity. So we want to make sure
This
that
was
you are,
decades
you know,
before the product boss. Just so they know, this was not the product
I feel
boss's
like you're
work
making me
here.
old. This was like 6.5 years ago. No, this was, yeah, this is not, this is way back in the beginning of me being a fashion designer.
Yeah.
And we want you to be able to optimize these opportunities. So I think, Gloria, you're helping so much with the growth and the opportunities and the reaching of other people. And then we want you to be able to fulfill on those opportunities and generate the revenue and have that return on your investment. So that's sort of our way and our give back during the busiest time of year to product-based businesses, to really support them with these free workshops about getting holiday ready. And then we do help them create their holiday promotions and a challenge that we have. So, come on over. We're here to help you. We're here to help Gloria and your audience. We just are so fulfilled by helping businesses grow, especially homegrown bootstrap businesses.
That's awesome. So how can people find you and more about, you said multi-stream machine, the holiday challenge. So why don't, by the way, anyone who's listening, get a pen and paper out and take notes, because this is literally like such valuable stuff right here. So how can people find you? What's an easy step that they can take to kind of connect with you?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. So you will have your own link in the show notes from Gloria, but it's the productboss.com/holiday, or click on the link in the show notes to join that free workshop series. Multi-Stream Machine, which is our signature program and course, will be opening the doors in September. So make sure to, come into our community to kind of know when things are happening. And one of the best ways to connect with us and continue to get support is to listen to the Product Boss podcast. We have an awesome episode that might be really helpful, and it's episode 270, which is what matters most in publicity for product businesses. So we're going to still talk about publicity, but we're going to dig deeper into the product part of it all. And that might just be a really great way to kind of continue the conversation over at the Product Boss podcast as well.
And we have nearly 400 episodes. So everything is great for listening and then up-leveling your business and yourself. So we'll meet you over there.
It's awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Let's make this holiday season the best one yet, shall we?
Yes, I'm so excited for it.